Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Total Entrepreneur Mind, Body, Spirit podcast, where we help entrepreneurs like you tap into the real ROI of prioritizing your mental, physical, and spiritual health. Today's guest is Nathan Siles, and we had a very cool conversation. If you've ever wondered what your phone or your AirPods are actually doing to your body, you definitely want to listen to this. Nathan is the co-founder of Biospectral Systems, where he helps people understand how modern light environments affect the eyes, brain, sleep, hormones, mitochondrial function, and long-term health. Through education and practical products, Biospectral Systems helps restore a more biologically integrated way of living by reducing harmful artificial light exposure and bringing indoor environments closer to the natural conditions that human physiology expects. He's a 2-time cancer survivor, including childhood brain cancer. Nathan brings lived experience to his work alongside more than a decade spent helping clients to improve their health through a foundational approach. He's also the co-creator of the Biotra approach and the founder of its Now You Health Consulting. Having worked with CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, professional athletes across multiple leagues, and people facing complex chronic health challenges, his mission is to help people understand how visible and invisible light, circadian biology, and the modern environment shape energy, recovery, resilience, and true long-term vitality. This was a really cool conversation. I think you're going to learn something really new today. Hey, Nathan, thanks for joining us. Really excited for the conversation on the podcast today.
Yeah, I appreciate being on here. Really excited to share the information. Let's get to it.
Yeah. Well, so the first thing I wanted to ask was about charging your phone next to your head or at your bedside table at night. I know you've got a few thoughts on that. So tell me what you think.
Yeah, your body is an electrical system. And when you have this man-made radiation that literally couples with your very gentle, delicate electrical system, you get all sorts of interruption. And charging your phone next to your bed head is one of the biggest mistakes that people can possibly make in their health journey. It goes so deep into the AC electric fields, magnetic fields, the dirty electricity, high frequency transients. I threw a lot of words at people there, but these are fields that impact your electrical system in a way that dehydrates your body. It activates your sympathetic nervous system. So the nervous system that's designed to keep you awake and running and digesting and thinking and active, that system from your brain stimulus down to the rest of your body and then back up to your brain gets switched on with your phone plugged in next to your head while you're sleeping. So you cannot access those deeper states of regeneration. If you're an athlete, if you're trying to perform in an exam, a test, if you're trying to think about how to improve your life and make change and have enough energy to make a change, all of those things are being totally sabotaged by your habits with technology in the bedroom.
So that is, I think, shocking to a lot of people because we have outlets next to our beds or by our bedside tables. We're charging our phones. A lot of people say they need it there in case of an emergency or for their alarm or something. So let's unpack all of this, right? Because these are signals people can't visually see, yet they are impacting your physiology in pretty profound ways. So you mentioned, actually, let's just start with the phone itself, either the Wi-Fi or the cell signal. What is that doing to you when it's right next to your head at night?
So most phones hit around the 2.4 gigahertz band, up to sometimes 3.6, and they have generally about 7 to 8 antennas inside them, transmitting at different megahertz, gigahertz bands and frequencies. So because we're in this electrical soup, that there's so much communication, whether it's radar, Starlink, cell phones, iPads, satellites, all these different things are communicating radio frequency, pulsing radiation through the air to receive from a transmitter to an antenna to transmit information. So we have this information ecosystem everywhere in the air. And if you happen to be in that air space between these technological communications, your biology is going to interact with that. So specifically the 2.4 gigahertz band and 2.45 gigahertz is how we heat our food up in a microwave. Well, not us. I don't use a microwave, haven't for 15 years. But that's what actually changes the hydration shells in the water of the food to then turn those into something that basically heats up the food and dehydrates the food. So if anyone knows, you put a steak in a microwave, you try and heat that up from the night before, it starts to get like shoe leather when it comes out. That's why when you reheat pizzas, same thing, super dry, disaster. And so we have this dehydrating effect from the 2.4 billion cycles per second pulsing the body that fast. Now we need to understand the reference point here, because the Earth has a pulse, but it's a direct current pulse, and it's a lot less than that. It's about 7 cycles per second, 7 hertz. So
is that
that's
what
a
they call the
beautiful.
Schumann resonance? Is that what that
You
is?
got it. That's it.
Okay.
So the Schumann resonance is the heartbeat of the Earth. It is the pulse, the rhythm, and the electrical movement of the ionosphere down to the Earth and then cycling back. And we happen to live in that cavity, and we happen to synchronize that in our thalamus, in our brain, this beautiful area in the middle of the brain. And that synchronizes this rhythm so that the electrical synchrony throughout the body can be rhythmic and we can get into a calm state, we can get into a meditative theta wave state, we can get into a deep sleep delta state, we can get into an active alpha or beta state, or we can get into a flow state, which is a gamma. So that's right up at the 30 cycles per second. So when our brain is really firing and we're on and we're in the zone and we're in the flow, that is when your cycle of your thalamus is hitting around 30 to 40 maximum cycles per second. You can't retain that. It's not possible to retain that state. That level of coherence does not last for very long. And that's why our attention span starts to wane after we've had deep focus. So you start to see that our body is not meant to be locked in a particular state. The problem with your cell phone is it's constantly transmitting this 2.4 billion pulses per second. Sure, it's at a lowish power density, but you have a tablet and 25 wireless devices in your house, smart devices emitting all these frequencies. You walk outside, you're in the cavity of Starlink and satellite and radar and everyone else's phones. So, and Wi-Fi everywhere, at every cafe, in every theater, everywhere. So you don't get a break from this. And the power density, unfortunately, has never been tested in studies, believe it or not, never been tested for multiple devices affecting the human body. So every one of them are rated to their maximum pulsing ability based on a thermal effect, which is actually the wrong way to assess it in the first place. So there's so many things wrong, but that pulsing radiation from your phone is what's going to start collapsing your bioelectric system.
So when you say we can operate at 30 cycles per second, right, and that can get us into a flow state, versus the 2.4 gigahertz, that's in the billions of cycles per second. So it's that much faster. I mean, that seems incredibly fast. So yeah, I mean, I think the difference between that and what's really good for us is pretty stark there. So it's been a while since, I mean, I haven't read my, user terms of agreement with my phone in quite some time, but I do remember one time reading it saying, hey, you shouldn't actually ever put this next to your head when you're talking on it. I don't know if that's still true or what you think about that, but even if they're testing it and saying, hey, it's safe for the one, the truth is you probably have hundreds around you at any one time, right? So it's not just your phone, it's every phone in your field. So yeah, what do you think about the safety claims of the phones and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it goes into the ionizing versus non-ionizing radiation. And this is where a lot of people just go, throw my hands up. It's too difficult. I don't really understand that. But all you have to know, and you don't have to know deep physics, third year physics, just taking it back to the first principles. If it's ionizing, it's something that can move an electron off an atom into something else and create a pretty strong chemical reaction. If it's non-ionizing, it vibrates that atom. It doesn't make it fully react so exorbitantly straight away. So the problem is these vibrations layer on top of each other. And as those vibrations in our cells oscillate, they actually end up releasing signaling molecules. And those signaling molecules, when it's something natural like sunlight or like sitting in front of a fire or a candle, those oscillations release peptides and reactive oxygen species and signaling exosome molecules and all these different things to help the body regulate and get into more of a healthy state, to oversimplify it. Whereas if it's from an unnatural source, such as a radio frequency emitter, like a phone or a tablet or a Bluetooth headsets or anything like that, then you start to get reactive oxygen species that deplete your manganese superoxide dismutase, which is your first line of defense at your mitochondrial level. And then once that's depleted, you have this oxidative damage of cascading harm throughout the whole system. So my point here is a non-ionizing radio frequency or microwave at 2.4 gigahertz, such as from your phone, can cause damage in your system, not the same way and same extreme as an X-ray or a gamma ray or a cosmic ray, something ionizing, but it causes it on a subcellular level of releasing these chemicals inside the body that do harm and basically steal electrons from those areas of the body, making them energy deprived. And then as soon as something becomes energy deprived, energy doesn't flow as well, and you are flowing energy. That's the only thing that you are. You are not energy that's stagnant. You are energy that flows. And the more flowing energy you have through your body, the more life you have. So if you've got big muscles and you've got lots of energy flowing through them, your consciousness and your actual life force will be more in your muscles than they will be anywhere else. If you've got a really big brain and you're really intelligent, or you have a really strong heart and your heart gets into a really nice rhythm while you sleep, that energy flow that goes through the brain and the heart, you will have more of your consciousness and your life force in those areas. So this is where we need to understand how energy is flowing and how it's being sabotaged from our bodies. So when we look at the ratings of what the regulators put in, which is these specific absorption rates of, thermal effects, you have to imagine heating up a pot of water on a kettle, right? Mm-hmm. You turn that on, you've got a 5-minute period, 3-minute period, whatever it is, until the water starts to boil. You're a bag of water and you're heating it with this radio frequency source, and you have to dissipate that heat. Your body's constantly dissipating that heat from the phone up against the head until it gets to a point where it just starts boiling, and then you feel the heat. Now, people wouldn't say that water goes from room temperature to boiling straight away and that's where it starts to boil. No, it's boiling all along the way to get to a point where it's boiling. That's what's happening to our brains when we have phones up against the head, when we have AirPods in, when we have any type of Bluetooth headphones or anything around the head. Our water in our head is literally being cooked and boiled, and the regulators say it only causes harm once you feel the heat. That's not true. It's happening all the way to that. And my last thing I'll say on this is the best book to read on this is Andrew Marino, Going Somewhere. I read this 14 years ago, and it shows all of the literature from right around the 1910s all the way through to about the 1970s and 80s. And it shows all of the preprint study publications that were hypothesizing harm along this way, and none of them ever made it to proper published journals or clinical trials because they went against industry. They were anti-industrial. They weren't allowing progress because they would have cost these companies and telecommunications billions and billions of dollars to put in extra research to make this radiation safe for the sensitive electric human living system. But they didn't do that. They were buried. And now you have this problem in science where there's a cartel that controls what gets published and what doesn't, which is why I read preprints. I read up and coming, very well thinking scientists who haven't been corrupted yet. And I make sure that I look at those and I read those before they go to journal studies, and I fit them into the first principles model of what would nature do? How would nature design my living system and living organisms, and feed that into there, which is how we came out with a lot of the understanding around the harms of EMF radiation.
It's so important to realize what you said about, kind of like almost like the industry capture of research, right? I mean, a lot of people say, trust the science. And if it's not in a peer reviewed journal, then it's garbage. But I think it's really important for people to understand that they need to discern this information, because like you said, it's not pure scientific investigation and reports of that coming through. It's often jaded by what is good for the industry. And it's really sad to say that. And you sound like a conspiracy theorist when you do, but I think it's, like your experience, it's just true. So really quick, because I've got a bunch of questions I wrote down.
Please.
I just talked my wife out of this. But she used to fall asleep with her AirPods in her head, listening to a book to fall asleep, and they would be in her head for hours at night, and just like she would be asleep while the book was playing. She just stopped it, but tell us what's wrong with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone needs to get some type of an EMF meter. This is a Safe and Sound Pro 2. This is a radio frequency meter. I take it with me everywhere. It's a couple $100, but probably the best couple $100 you'll ever spend, because
What's it called, Nathan? The Safe and Sound?
Safe and Sound Pro 2.
Safe and
So
Sound Pro 2. Okay.
yeah, this right here is something that I bring when I go traveling, when I go and check hotel rooms, where I check where I'm sitting in waiting rooms for appointments. It's when I buy a new device, when I go into a new room to sweep it before I go to bed. It's something that I just, and it's very simple. It's, you read it, there's numbers. The numbers are very clear, and they've got colors of red, yellow, and green, whether they're safe, in somewhat harm, or very harmful. And it's set to building biology standards. The Building Biology Institute is a gigantic institute in the United States that regulates the actual safety and biological harm of EMF fields, and then the safety guidelines. Now, they try to do the best they can to influence actual policy at the high level, but not many people are paying attention, and they're relegating them to, like you said, conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat. But the
Right.
problem is,
Well, I was going to say, like, I'm sure nobody's ever heard of the Building Biology Institute, right? But it's so important, right. But yet nobody's hearing about reports out of the Building Biology Institute or policy that they've affected, because it's probably getting smothered. Yeah,
absolutely. So the AirPods while you're sleeping are the same situation as people using vagal nerve stimulators while they're going to bed, or, there's all these like, sleep masks that play little visuals for you, or sweet dreams meditations, or all these things. They have a biological cost. They're based on same as these sleep mats, the 8 Sleep, and all of these types of things. Anytime you're bringing tech into the bedroom, they're giving you a benefit on one side. It's more comfort. It's more nervous system regulation. It's more cooling. It's whatever it is, light blocking. But then there's the EMF side. And this is where these people are truly creating products that are harming people. And I would say it's a quarter truth, not even a half truth, when they release the product and say this helps you sleep, because they're only measuring the metrics on the features they've put in. They're not measuring the downsides, which your body pays attention to. And same with the pendants, the Leela Quantum, the rings, the harmonizers, all these things that are designed to work on your subtle energy, on all of those spaces. They're basically blinding the body to mounting a reaction to these fields in the environment. And the problem with that is it's like taking a drug. You're blinding your body to what it's trying to perceive and warn you from, to get out of that dangerous environment. That's why you don't sleep in a hotel as good as when you sleep at home, because you're in 45 other Wi-Fi emitters, and you've got your head up against copper wires in the walls. You've got TVs, pulsing smart TVs. You've got smart fridges, all these things. So putting these Bluetooth headsets in your ears will dysregulate your thalamus rhythm and not allow you to get into those deeper states of sleep. The problem with that is your heart rate doesn't drop. When your heart rate doesn't drop, you're not sleeping. When your brain doesn't get into delta waves, you get up and go to the bathroom at night. You go and feel like you're tossing and turning, and you blame the comfort of the bed. It's not, your brain's not sleeping. So if your brain's not sleeping, your nervous system's not sleeping, your heart's not sleeping. I mean, let's say you eat late, so your gut's not sleeping either. I mean, how are you supposed to perform the next day? Like, you just can't. So taking care of that, this is why we focus on at Biospectral a sleep sanctuary. How do we build that? Step one, create that just like the womb, EMF shielded, like the womb was with amniotic fluid. That's a Faraday cage. How do we build a Faraday cage in your bedroom, just like you were when you were growing in the most formative time of your life? And how do we then allow you to find that deep rest and repair your brain, wake up like you don't have a hangover?
Right. And it's, there seems to be a balance. And I like the way you phrased it. There's like is it a biological trade-off, or I forget what you said, but like you're solving one problem, but, unwittingly causing others. Right. So, we live in modern times, right? This is when we live. Cell phones are real. Wi-Fi is real. Unless you can escape to the jungle for a few months a year, which I try to do, you're going to be bombarded with this. So it's a matter of being wise. And like you said, setting your environment up for a little bit more success, right? So I want to get into the sleep stuff, but I also want to hear a little bit more. You said like our bodies are just bags of water and we're energy and that sort of thing. I want to hear a little bit more about that um, before we get into the rest of it.
Yeah, I love it. So thanks for pausing on that. So there's a principle by Dr. Martin Picard, and he's a biologist, and he explained it's called the energy resistance principle. So energy only flows in a system when there's resistance. So as an example, the sun, it emits all of its photons through the atmosphere. Some of them get through, some of them get to the earth, some of them get to us. That light from the sun only gets to us, animals and plants, to power all of life because there's some resistance. It meets our cell membranes. It hits there and it transforms that energy, that radiant energy, photonic energy, into electrical energy. So we are energy transformers. When there's resistance, there's energy flow. When there's too much resistance, let's think type 1 diabetes and psoriasis, classic examples of too thick skin, really, really thick skin, and you can't transduce the environmental energy as well. That's why ultraviolet B radiation is really important for those conditions, because you need something really strong, a strong electron volt stimulus to then get through that thick skin. Whereas a healthy person doesn't need as much strength in that light. So we have an energetic system that flows. All you have to do is close your eyes for 1 second, take a breath in, and then take a breath out, and let go and hold for 15 seconds, and then feel the energy in your body. You will feel that hunger for oxygen. That is your mitochondria screaming out, saying, I need to move energy. I need to move through my body. I need oxygen to do that. And we transform that energy from the plants. They release the oxygen. They turn their all the energy they get from the sun and from their roots into hydrocarbons in carbohydrates or fats or lipids. We then eat those and we turn that back into energy inside our system, and we combine it with the oxygen they give us, and we turn it into water. We make water and we make carbon dioxide to breathe out to go back to the plants. So we are a perfect synergy of energy, capture, transformation, release. And that flow is life. Without that, there is no life. So that's a super important process, that energy side.
Now that was, yeah, thanks for breaking that down. I appreciate it. And I think most people are familiar with the fact that we are mostly water. I forget do you remember what the exact percentage is? Is it like 90 something?
We start at 85%
Okay.
by weight,
Okay.
and then we get down to about 55. So aging is dehydration.
Okay. So yeah, so we are mostly water, which is just wild because we feel so solid, right? But we're mostly water. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So, before we talk about sleep still, it just seems like people, you're not gonna not use your phone, right? And you're gonna live in modern society because we have these things. Like if, you're not gonna give up your phone just to try to prevent something else, because then you might have other problems like, work wise with your family or something. But, maybe after we talk about sleep, we can talk about some best practices, like to create that as close as you can to a Faraday cage, right? But on the safe and sound device, like what are you actually looking for? Like as you're taking readings around, like are you going for, is it visual? You can say, hey, like I want to stay in the green, or how much yellow is okay, or what should people be thinking about as they're taking readings?
Yeah, it's awesome. So you can actually put an audio mode on, which I like. I'm very auditory. And so as an example, you can see that, this is, you can see a pulsing field. So this is the cell tower that's behind me.
Oh, wow.
So you can see the numbers are going up and down, and they're pulsing because the cell tower behind me, behind these trees, quite far away, but it's still reaching me. I have reception. It's very weak, but I have it. It's sending information out saying, is there a text message yet? Is there a call? No, but I'm going to keep checking. And then your phone's doing the same thing, sending it back. If you got anything for me, all the time. So you're looking for those numbers and those pulsing frequencies. Obviously, the average is a useful measure of the environment and roughly what sort of level you're getting to, but you want to look at the maximum, because the biology pays attention to the maximum, the peaks. As soon as that pulse hits your skin, it's going to change the biochemistry underneath straight away. So you can hear that auditory sound that I had. That is the radiation your body is trying to neutralize and tune out so that you can continue living your life. It's unnecessary biological noise. It's for our machine to machine communication. So when you're looking in your environment for things like this, you try and find rooms that are more quiet than others. That's where you put the kid. That's where you put the baby. That's where you try and sleep. I always rent 2-bedroom apartments. So up here, the radio frequencies are less than in the bedroom downstairs. It just happens to be that's probably where the neighbor's Wi-Fi is, or sometimes it's the reverse. Sometimes the higher you go, the more close you are to more cell towers. Ultimately, I'm pretty far away from the cell towers, but the neighbor's Wi-Fi is really strong, and they've got a mesh router and a 5G smart TV and those types of things. So that's why I sleep upstairs and I pull my bed off the wall. I'm getting into the solutions, but being able to identify things in your environment where you can look to support your system is really good. And I'm a scientist, so having actual scientific engineering proof that you're not crazy, like your anxiety may not just be you, it may be your environment. And I live by the principle of the problem is not in you. Your body does not make mistakes. It's constantly reacting and compensating to the way you want to live your life. And it's trying to help support you doing the things you want to do.
That's a great way to phrase it, right? Because in nature is perfect, right? So our bodies wouldn't start to degrade or present with pathologies just naturally, right? It's in response to something else, and I think that's really important. And it could be, maybe this is my cynical side coming out, but the reason this isn't a known societal problem is because there's no pill you can prescribe for it. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they try to. The supplement industry tries to give you these solutions. Same as I said, the pendants, the EMF emitting things. Yeah. Everyone's going to try and sell you that there's a simple solution. Don't worry about your Wi-Fi. It's all too much. Just put this little sticker on, or just wear this or do that. And I'm sorry, it's like taking a teddy bear with you. It's going to help you for a placebo. You're going to have something nice and warm and cuddly to hold on to. It's going to make you feel better, but it's not changing the field, impacting your biology. It's just blinding your biology to make a compensative reaction to go, this sucks. I need to get out of the city. Like, have you been shopping or you've been to an airport and you're like, I just need to get to the beach, or I need to just get outside in some greenery. I just need to take my shoes off. I need to breathe fresh air. That feeling right there is the EMF stress that your body is under. So we can't numb that.
Right. So that's your body seeking to get back to that. And I've read a lot about grounding and earthing, and I've got, a pad for when I'm traveling and I'm, in, high-rise hotels and, that sort of thing. So let's talk about some of the ways we can mitigate the exposure, right? So we've got our phones. We're not gonna stop using cell phones. Most of us are not going to be able to live in an area where there are no signals, right? Because that's just not modern life. So what do we do?
So you got to control what you can control. And once you've controlled everything you can control, you don't stress about it. So firstly, don't get into fear around this. Like, unfortunately, hey, put your big boy, big girl pants on. The government has not taken care of you on this, just like they haven't for many other things. You've got to figure out how to take responsibility for your life so that you can have children if you want, you can have a beautiful career, you can start your business, you can have enough energy. So here's what you have to do. Take a look at your environment, look around you, look at what your biggest exposures are. If you have a cell tower you can see, that's a problem. If you've got smart meters on your walls, if you're driving an electric car, if you have a phone that's in your pocket, in your bra, whatever it is, if you have Bluetooth headsets, if you have smart technology in your room, in your house, you need to get an EMF meter. You need to start measuring it and believe it. Don't just trust me. I mean, I've had 15 years of experience in cleaning people's homes and seeing remarkable results, like dramatic results, such as people having seizures, their whole life suddenly stopped. People who could never sleep. They have insomnia. They haven't slept for 15 years more than 3 hours in a row, and suddenly they're sleeping 8, 9 hours straight without waking up. I mean, real results, and you can have those too. So in your environment, find out what your biggest impacts are. So any technology that's pulsing, it could be the wiring in your walls. If you've got electric car charging, if you've got Alexa, Google Voice, all of these things are things you need to switch off at night. So you want to protect your sleep. You're not using your Wi-Fi. You're not using your Alexa. You're not using any of these things at nighttime. So doing that, as well as, if you can, and this is first thing I do when I walk into a new place, is I isolate the fridge circuit in the room. So when I came into the Airbnb, I go, all right, where's the fridge? Where's the security camera? Or if you want to leave air conditioning on in one room or whatever it is, where's that? Turn everything else off. And you do that at nighttime. And it's something that you can measure the electric fields at the bed head against the walls. You can measure it on the couch when you're watching TV at night. The more power you turn off, generally, the better the electromagnetic environment. So you can control that. And your mitochondria, your cells, pay attention to that 1 to 3 feet radius of your body. So if you can keep that little bubble clean as much as possible, you're making a significant impact. Don't worry about your neighbor's Wi-Fi yet. Don't worry about that cell tower a mile away or Starlink on someone else's roof. You can't do anything against that. There will be, in the next 5 to 10 years, legal pathways, and there already are, but they're a little bit difficult to actually, and people have won, and they've said, my neighbor is assaulting me with their Alexa or their or their Starlink, and they've won. Wow. And they've got the neighbor to take it down because it is biological assault. This is, wow. And it's now precedent in courts in the United States, in Australia, in Europe. So it's starting to be a wave there. So, if you want to continue being assaulted, then just go, la, 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 I'm good. And, realize why your energy is going to get taken from you. But cleaning up your bedroom from the electric fields and magnetic fields, turning the power off, cleaning it up from the radio frequency by switching devices off. Anything that's on you, put it on airplane mode when you're not using it, or use a Faraday bag, something, just slip your phone in really quickly. When you have to use your phone and it has sound coming out of it, the magnetic field when you have sound coming out of your phone is insane. It gets up to 20 to 40 milligauss. It's 50 times the background level of magnetic fields. So Get yourself a selfie stick, get yourself like a little mobile phone holder or something that kind of just allows you to sit there and you kind of just, you're not holding it, right? And you keep it away from you. So if you're sitting there on the toilet or you're sitting there on the couch or wherever you are for 20 minutes, an hour, and you're scrolling or you're checking emails or whatever, don't touch the phone. If that has sound coming out of it, if that has as active and it's transmitting, the more you can keep your distance from it, the better.
What about wired headphones? Like, do those help at all, or is it still basically the same thing?
There's stages to this, right? So turn your Wi-Fi off is stage number 1. Get a selfie stick is stage number 2. Number 3 is basically keep it on airplane mode. Number 4 is put it in a Faraday bag. Number 5 is get rid of your Bluetooth and get wired. Number 6 is, instead of wired, get air tube, which is what we create at Biospectral. We've got these silicon air tubes that have a electrical break between where the copper wire and speaker is to the actual head itself. So it transmits the sound through the air tube to the ear. Now, if you're an audio engineer or you're, doing deep video editing for the next Spielberg film, then maybe you don't want to use an air tube headset because it cuts out about 8 to 10% of the quality of the audio. But it's still good for spoken voice and for music, for everything else. And 99% of people can't hear the difference. So that type of headset is really important, and keeping any other electrical things away from the brain is just so fundamental for your cerebral spinal fluid to go up and power the 20-volt brain that we have, and so important for the water to flow through and all the neurons to fire in their perfect synchronicity to synchronize our circadian rhythm and our metabolic rate and all those things that come from the brain area. So they can all be totally interrupted. Yeah.
Is there, I know when I'm my feet are on the earth, or I'm in the ocean, or I'm just outside around trees and away from all this, I naturally feel better, right? And you crave that. Is there a period of time you need in order to have a proper recovery? And does it help you and build some resilience for when you get back into these fields? Or is it like, you're out in nature and then as soon as you get back into the fields, you're back to the same situation?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's just like building muscle. It's just like building mental acumen. The more time you put into working that, the stronger you'll be. So the more time you spend in nature, connected to nature, the stronger your resilience. Ironically, the more you will feel the electric and magnetic fields and radio frequency and dirty electricity, because you'll start to see where your energetic system starts to get pulled into, hey, I'm a normal human being again. I'm not just super optimal. So I notice when I go and spend a day off screens and a day off technology, and I'm floating in the ocean, I'm socializing outdoors at a cafe, I'm doing all these things, and the next day I come back into the same environment I was in before. You feel it so much more, and that's because your body's cleared out the deuterium loaded water, the heavy water that your body doesn't want. It's cleared out more toxins. You're more purified as a system. You probably slept better. I always sleep better when I don't have a day on screens.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you'll find a way to add more resilience to your system anytime you can connect to nature. And I hate giving this answer, but the practical guide is you need at least 30 minutes of grounding per day. Direct connection to the earth, 30 minutes. If you have a chronic disease, you need a minimum of 3 hours. So this is what so far in the literature have said it gives people in those categories. 30 minutes is maintenance for most people. 3 hours or more is what you want to do if you want to tip the balance away from your chronic inflammatory disease. But we were designed to be connected to nature 24/7. We were designed to sleep on the earth, walk on the earth, touch trees, be around those environments, float in the ocean. So any departure from that is suboptimal. But in a modern world, while we're trying to make things very practical for people, first 30 minutes of the day when you wake up and you watch that pre-sunrise and sunrise, which we should all be doing, because that sets the metabolic rhythm for your entire day. We don't have to overestimate how amazing your circadian system is for regulating gene expression, all the proteins you build, everything. That 30 minutes when you watch that sunrise at 5, 6, 7 a.m., work doesn't start then. The kids are still asleep. Get up there, take your shoes off, find a green space, face east, look to the sky. Doesn't matter if you can't see the sun, and just spend 30 minutes out there. Bring some hard-boiled eggs, whatever you want to bring with you. Just have a couple things as the sun comes up, and that's going to set your rhythm for the day. It's going to give you resilience. It's going to help you get better sleep that night, and it's going to get your 30 minutes in for the day of grounding, right?
So, I live in Syracuse, New York, and in the winter, it's really impractical to get our feet on the earth in the winter, right? So grounding pads and earthing pads, thumbs up, thumbs down, what should people be thinking about or looking for in a good one?
Yeah, before we go there, I'd like to share, you can touch a tree. You can pet your animal.
Okay.
You
Gotcha.
can
So it
hold
doesn't
on
have to
to
be
a
your
branch.
feet. So you can just take a walk and actually just touch a tree, touch it. Okay. So well, that's
Totally.
helpful, right? It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be the actual ground. It could be something else that is kind of heading to the ground.
Totally. And every now and then pick up a snowball and make it and throw it at a wall. Like you're going to be grounded while you pick up that snowball. Or wear leather sole shoes. There's many different types of grounding shoes and grounding footwear out there at the moment that can directly connect you to the earth. Obviously, there's complications because the rule number one of grounding is we never want to ground in the presence of live power. So that means we don't want to ground when there's power lines over the top of us or underneath us, or when there's ambient fields around us, say indoors in a bedroom or all those things. We try and mitigate those fields first until we plug into the earth. Otherwise, you become a conduit for that field to get to earth, because the electric field just wants to get to earth and then return to the power station. So then we get into the grounding mats and grounding sheets. And this is a bigger conversation because, in my opinion, the grounding mats and grounding sheets that people are using right now and plugging into outlets in their walls and they're not turning their power off, that plugs into the grounding rod of the house or hotel or wherever you are. You're actually adding charge and current from that electrical wiring onto that mat, which generally has conductive materials in it, going into you. And then you're also a conduit for the fields in the room or wherever you are to go through you. So you have these high frequency transients, these electric fields passing through your body, which no grounding company will ever measure because it will prove their whole model wrong. But what they do is they put it on you. They put the one end of the voltmeter on you and one end on the ground, and they say, oh, look, he's grounded. Yeah, you're grounded. That's true. But it doesn't measure how much voltage is running through your body in the presence of grounding. So what is the cost? Once again, it's a trade-off, right? So what we've done with our building biologists, and you met one of our guys.
Yeah, Marco.
And that's right. And he and a physicist and a couple other people have looked into the literature, and I've done that too. And we came up with a solution about 3 years ago that will go in between the wall and the grounding sheet and the grounding mats. And this is starting to prove, and we're getting final results coming out pretty soon, and we'll go to prototyping stage, and we'll make it available for people, and we'll make it very affordable. And this will be something, so don't throw out your grounding sheets, don't throw out your grounding mats. Just get this little plug that's been designed by really super intelligent people that are very engineering and physics based and proving results, and we'll show those to then help the actual filtering of that grounding situation, so you can remain connected to the earth with all those benefits, and then you don't have the biological cost of grounding in the presence of live power as a conduit.
So if you turn the power off to the outlet that you've taken your grounding pad and plugged it into, are you still getting the effect of the ground or not?
You are.
Okay.
You are.
Okay.
But you're adding a cost, and that's the problem.
Gotcha.
And same deal for putting a grounding rod out the window. If you're plugging that grounding rod out the window, you've gotten rid of the dirty electricity and the electric fields off the wiring, but you've introduced potentially fields that are under the ground, maybe electrical wires or pipes or other things that are carrying electricity that might be coming up through onto your silver sheet as well. And you're not taking care of the ambient environment, like the fan or anything above the bed. Right.
And like you said, that's all that now you're just attracting that, and it's got to go through you to get to ground. So that could be problematic.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which is like where we started, because you're an electrical system and you're introducing this man-made electricity.
I mean, I'm sure for you, it's not as complicated as for most of us, but it's something that's so ingrained in society, we don't even think about it. And of course it's safe because, we're walking around doing this and nobody's dropping dead on the spot, but we're just accumulating this stress and causing chronic disease. So now you mentioned you're building biologist and you shared a couple of quick examples, but is there like a really dramatic example or case that you could share with us about, hey, you went in, you cleaned up the building, and you had a pretty cool result?
Probably one of the big ones that was recent was there was a kid, he's 11 years old, he's in North Carolina, and the property that they were sleeping in was horrible. I mean, when I say horrible, I mean it's equivalent to a hospital or an airport. The wireless devices were insane. They had power lines that were going down the side of the property and the back of the property, and the fields that were coming off there were disastrous because the neighborhood was very upper class and very techie. And they had electric cars that were charging overnight, bringing so much power through those lines, pulsing them at nighttime, when normally the magnetic field drops at night to give the body a bit of a rest because everyone's asleep, but everyone's charging their cars, right? So he'd had seizures every single week for about 6 years. And this was a really big problem because he'd been taken to all the best experts. Now, the family was in the YPO, right? So best of all that they have access to generally the best information, the best care. And these people were at a loss. The doctors were throwing their hands up. We don't know. We have to put him on medication for the rest of his life. We don't know what the outcome's going to be. And when I say tried everything, I mean, medical stuff, homeopathics, psychobiologists, I mean, like woo-woo stuff, like, crazy stuff. So we came into the house and did a sweep, and especially Marco did a really incredible diagnostic job of the kid's bedroom, and found that there was this gigantic magnetic field going right across the bed. And you wouldn't suspect it. The house looks stunning. It was beautiful, tall ceilings, nice stone, marble. It looked beautiful. It's a 5-bedroom house. Lighting was reasonable. There was a lot of incandescents, which were great. But you're like, okay, well, what's wrong with this house? I mean, it's great. It's like a real estate agent showing every time I look for a house, the real estate agent shows me, oh, here's the bathroom, here's the bedroom, here's the bay window. It's like, no, I just care about where the smart meter is, where the fields are, where this, where that. And so we did a great job remediating the bedroom. And the next night, the boy slept 9 hours, didn't wake up once. And it's been, 6 months now, and,
Wow.
and no more seizures. And he's back in school. And it's just, the parents say it's a miracle. And changing someone's life like that at such a young age changes all of the probabilities of these outcomes. And it doesn't have to necessarily be something so significant that takes your life in a completely dependent direction in order to start looking at these things. But I can guarantee you, everyone who has not had a building biologist certify that their house or their bedroom is completely safe is being affected by these fields. And it behooves of you to take one foot in front of the other, one step. If there's only one thing you can take from this podcast, whatever it is, turn your Wi-Fi off. If that's the easiest thing for you to do at night, if it's pulling your bed 6 inches off the wall so that you have less electric fields at your head because it's coming from the copper wire there, if it's turning some power circuits off to the bedroom, whatever it is, those little things will make a difference in your energy. And suddenly, oh, I don't crave coffee. Suddenly, I don't need a nootropic. Suddenly, I don't need CBD to fall asleep. Suddenly, I don't need blah, blah, blah. And the list continues.
Yeah. And it's literally that fast. Like the day you solved for these EMFs, like the body just sort of readapted, I guess. Wow.
The body has your mitochondria run on a 30 million volts per meter charge across the inner membrane. So your mitochondria are the organs of your organs. So they sit in all of your organs and they power those organs. And they run on a 30 million volt per meter charge across their little membrane. They're tiny, they're a couple angstroms long, these tiny little organelles. And that is the potential energy we have locked in. Every single one of these little energy turbines, we have them. It's the voltage of a lightning bolt. So we have this potential energy everywhere in our body. And as soon as you take the electrical stress off the body, that potential energy becomes accessible again. It doesn't leak out and short circuit the system. So that access to that electrical potential allows you to reach your potential because you are moving energy.
And I think it's probably safe to say you want to measure that, right? Because you can't really take action on any of this stuff unless you know what you're dealing with, right? I mean, you could do things preventively, assuming that, if you pull your bed away from the wall, you'll get less dirty electric, but you don't even know if you have dirty electric or what the magnitude is, right? So maybe just starting by doing a scan of your building is a good place to start.
Absolutely. And you can buy really cheap electric field meters, these radio frequency meters. You can just look on, now we've got ChatGTP. ChatGTP has probably all of the public Building Biology Institute literature. Just look it up. What are the building biology standards for radio frequency for this? What's the best meter? And in 5 minutes, you can, for a few $100s, you can order these things and you can just protect your family. And if you're a man out there, your job is to make the world safe for women and children. I'm sorry, but that's the responsibility I take. And if you're out there and you want to also make the world safe for women and children, just take one leaf out of this book and figure out how you can protect them, because it's the mums and the women that pass on the mitochondria to the kids, and that sets their longevity, that sets their disease profile, that sets everything. So you need to take care of your woman. You need to take care of her pre-conception, during pregnancy, post-birth, for that 3, 4, 5 year period. And that is the time where we stop brain disease for the next generation.
Wow. That is powerful. And it's something we can take action on, right? We're not helpless, right? Even though the government is not necessarily helping protect us, like you said earlier, we've got to pull our pants up, put our big boy and girl pants up and do it ourselves. Yeah, well, that seems like a good place to pause and say thank you very much. Now, if people are interested in learning more about you and what you do and the work you've got going on, how do they find you? Where do they go?
Yeah, Biospectral Systems is my education company.
Mm-hmm.
And you can jump on there, Biospectral. It's bio, life, spectral, the full spectrum, and then system designed for your living system. So, how do you add more full spectrum energy to your living system so that you can thrive? And there's a huge education library that I've put there. There's books that you can research, there's studies that you can find evidence for all of this stuff. There's blogs that I've written with huge amounts of references and citations. There's podcasts I've produced. And that's the first place to go if you're curious. I've got a course that I've put together, which you can find on Biospectral Systems as well. And it's a foundations course, 9 modules, 15 minutes. And you can have all this information for the last 10 years that I've pulled from all these experts around the world and all of my lived experience with helping 1,200 patients reverse their chronic diseases across time periods using nature, using no supplements, no diet changes, really, no exercise changes, no traditional help, just re-empowering them with the way their body works. So that's where I'd go to. And if you want the practical solutions and things you can do to just plug and play into your life right now, we make these melanin infused blue light blocking glasses, which are essential in a modern world because none of us are going to stop looking at screens. So you put these on, they have melanin in the lenses, just like your eyes do, and they block that artificial light so you can regulate your circadian rhythm after sunset. We also have the air tube headsets. We've got full spectrum light bulbs, so you can have the closest thing to a sun without the ultraviolet indoors. And we've got a bunch of other things that we'll be coming out with in the next 6 months. So there's education, there's courses, and there's plug and play products, and then do biological testing, measure your sleep, measure some blood markers, and reach out by email to me, reach out by our support. And I'll be able to help you and point you in the right direction for what to measure so you can start to see the difference and feel the effects as well as see them.
Amazing. Yeah, I've got some of your glasses as well. So I'm a big fan of those. So, well, Nathan, thank you so much. This was really helpful. I feel another conversation at some point in our future because I feel like we've still got some ground to cover with this. But I think this was a really great introduction to the topic and the subject matter, and hopefully it started to get people thinking about what they can do, to just kind of control their environment. So thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure.